Hello. Hi guys. Good morning. Everybody is on time today. Wonderful, wonderful. Very good. Right. So shall we start, people? Guys, are you ready? Everyone had their coffees? Is everybody fresh? Hello. Guys.
Yes, sir.
Everyone ready? Like everyone is fresh. Everybody has to tell me yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, so we have come to our conclusions of VSCPR and theory of hybridization, right? We saw what were the demerits also. Say it was not able to predict the colors, like certain molecules are colored, certain molecules are not, and it doesn't talk about bond strengths, it doesn't talk about magnetic behavior, right? So all the demerits we saw. But other than this, I actually have with the help of VSCPR, right? With the help of valence shell electron repulsion theory, you will be able to compare the bond angles of so many. Like if I give you 2-3 compounds, right? Say NH3, BF3, NCl3, something like that I give, right? What will happen is how to put it? You will be able to predict the order. What is the order? What is the order in which this bond angles are there? I'll be able to tell, okay, NH3 is having lesser bond angle than BF3, so on and so forth. I'll be able to predict it. Okay. So now we'll take some very good examples and we'll try to do that. Okay, fine. Now let me compare this. Say I have BF3 and NH3. Okay, BF3 and NH3. And guys, you have to know the hybridization. You have to know the shape. All these things matters here, right? Okay, fine. Now you tell me which is going to have a higher bond angle. NH3 and BF3, from whatever you have learned till now, right? Which do you think is going to have a higher bond angle? Now, how will you approach this? Right. Now, BF3 is what hybridization? Boron has what hybridization?
SP2.
sp2, isn't it?
SP.
sp
SP2, sir.
Correct. It's sp2, right? So I know boron is sp2 hybridized, and there is no lone pair on boron. Correct. So obviously, like I know if it is sp2 and without any lone pair, I know it is going to have trigonal planar shape, right? So obviously the bond angle would have been
120 degrees.
wonderful. Bond angle would have been 120 degrees. Okay, cool. So now if I go to ammonia, that is NH3, right? So NH3 is what hybridized? What is the hybridization of nitrogen there? I told you how to find the hybridization. Hope you remember steric number, right? The steric number is equal to number of bonding atoms plus number of lone pairs on the central atom, right? So here I have
SP3,
3
sir.
bonding. Yeah, it is sp3. So you have 3 bonding atoms, that is 3 hydrogen atoms, and obviously I know there will be a lone pair on nitrogen, right? So obviously the steric number is 4, so it is sp3 hybridized. But okay, so if at all I have sp3 hybridized, okay, I know I'm going to have tetrahedral geometry, right? So I know in tetrahedral geometry it is going to be 109 degree 5 minutes. But will this be the bond angle here?
No, sir.
Okay, can you come up with the reason why will it not?
There's a lone pair.
Exactly, right? So if you look at this, I have a lone pair, right? And just because of this lone pair, the shape itself is changing from tetrahedral geometry. In one of the positions, I have a lone pair present, right? So I know the shape here is going to be trigonal pyramidal, isn't it? This is a trigonal pyramidal shape, or generally pyramidal shape, right? So obviously the bond angle would have been lesser than 109 degree 5 minutes, because if I have sp3 without any lone pair, SeH4, something like that, right? But here I have a lone pair, and because of this lone pair bond pair repulsions, right? So I know the bond angle is going to come like this, right? And obviously the bond angle would have been around 107 degrees. That is what would have happened. Okay. So obviously, you know what is the answer now. So BF3 is going to have a bond angle of 120 degrees, and NH3 is having a bond angle of, you don't have to know the numbers, like this number you don't have to remember, but this number is easy because this comes from the geometry itself, right? But this number you don't have to remember, but you can remember that it is going to be lesser than 109 degree 5 minutes tetrahedral bond angle, right? So definitely BF3 is going to have a higher bond angle than NH3. Okay, fine. Now let me compare NH3 with H2O. NH3 with H2O. Okay, fine. Now I'm gonna ask people. Okay, Shruti, are you there, Kana?
Yes, sir.
Kana, can you tell me NH3 I know is sp3 hybridization. What will be the hybridization of H2O?
Once.
Yeah.
SP3, sir.
Very good. Very good. So obviously you see that there are two bonding atoms, right? There are two hydrogen atoms, and obviously you know there are 6 valence electrons in oxygen, right? Out of that, 2 are involving in bonding. So how many electrons are left out? 4 electrons are left out. So you obviously know that there are going to be 2 lone pairs on
Yes.
oxygen, right? So cool, definitely 2 plus 2 again 4. So it is sp3 hybridized. Okay, fine. Thank you, Shruti. So obviously, guys, now here if you see, if I want to compare the bond angles, right? If I want to compare the bond angles, which do you think will have more bond angle?
So NH3.
Okay, correct, right? So guys, what you have to remember is this: when I have lone pair repulsion is greater than lone pair bond pair repulsion, which is greater than bond pair repulsion, right? So in ammonia, or say if I start with BF3, BF3 just had bond pair repulsion because there are no lone pairs there. So obviously you go like normally whatever you get geometry, you got that, right? And in ammonia, I had lone pair bond pair. See, this is the lone pair, this is the bond pair. I had lone pair bond pair repulsion. So obviously the repulsion is more, so the electron cloud is going to move away from each other. So the bond angle is constricting. Okay. So now if I go to H2O, now you're going to have lone pair repulsion, because you see that there are 2 lone pairs here, right? So if I try to draw the shape, I know the shape is going to be bent. It's a form AB2L2, isn't it? AB2L2, I know I'm going to have a bent shape anyways, but you can easily see that I have oxygen, hydrogen, and there is one lone pair and there is another lone pair, right? So first of all, they will actually repel so much. That is, the lone pair will repel so much. So they will go apart. When they go apart, they will come closer to this bond pairs, and obviously the lone pair bond pair repulsion on both sides increases. So what will happen? To avoid this, the bond pair, that is the two hydrogens, will come still more closer than in this case, that is than in the case of ammonia, right? In ammonia, I had only lone pair, bond pair repulsion. Here I have lone pair repulsion. So definitely here, if you look at the bond angle, it will be around 105 degrees. Like these are the experimental values, remember again. So it's very easy for me to tell that NH3 will have more bond angle than H2O, right? Okay, we'll take more examples. Okay, say I want to compare NH3 and NF3. Okay, fine. Now, how are we going to approach these kind of problems? We'll see. Okay, so now you know both. Just everything is same. Shape is same. Hybridization is same. Number of lone pair is same. Everything is same except for the side atoms. Here it is hydrogen, and here it is fluorine, isn't it? Right? So both of them are sp3 hybridized. Both of them have pyramidal shape. The only thing which is varying is the bond atoms, or I mean the bonding atoms, the side atoms. Okay. So now how do I go about it? Right. Now let me draw the structure for both of them. Both of them have a lone pair also. Okay. Right. Now, guys, it's actually going to be the bond angle is actually going to be about the, how to put it, the electronegativity difference between the central atom and the bonding atom, right? So I know fluorine is the most electronegative element in the periodic table, right? And nitrogen is quite electronegative. It's not that it's not as electronegative as fluorine, but it is also one of the highly electronegative elements in the periodic table. Basically, fluorine, oxygen, and nitrogen are the most electronegative elements, isn't it? Okay. Now, if I go here, I have nitrogen, and obviously I have hydrogen, which is electropositive, or I'd say it is very, very less electronegative, isn't it? Right. So, if you can remember the term polarity, do you remember polar compounds? What do you mean by a polar bond? Does anyone remember what is a polar bond?
Sir, a bond in which the shared pair of electrons go towards the more electronegative aspect.
Okay. So because of that, what is going to happen? What is going to happen if I have high? So it's all about electronegativity difference here. So as Rohan said, say for example, if I take HCl molecule, right? So chlorine atom is highly electronegative, right? So because of this, the electron cloud will be more and more towards chlorine and away from hydrogen. Yes, that is the polar bond. So because of that, what is going to happen? If the electron cloud shift towards one particular element, what will happen? Anybody? I am neutral.
It will acquire charges.
Exactly. Right. So when I say polar, poles means what? Poles means, say, it can be, for example, in terms of magnets, it can be North Pole, South Pole. If I talk in terms of electric charges, it is positive pole and negative pole. So whenever you see the term pole, polar, polarity, all these terms will come. If you see that, your mind should automatically go to some kind of charges. Okay, there's going to be automatically, you have to go think about some amount of charge is getting created here, right? Now, since electron cloud is moving towards chlorine and is away from hydrogen, so obviously you know that there is going to be a del negative, that is partial negative on chlorine, and there's going to be partial positive on hydrogen, right? Okay, so this is what is polar, isn't it? So this is not what, okay, this is actually going to help us here to decide the bond angle. So now here I don't have much electronegativity difference. Like you can say that like the electron cloud will be more towards chlorine, but still, I mean not more towards fluorine, but still not much, because like they are like say not the electronic difference is not that much. But if I look at this ammonia molecule, NH bond I have pretty high electronegativity difference there. Okay, so what is going to happen because of that? Now so I can tell approximately that the bond pairs are almost in the middle, right? The bond pairs are almost in the middle for NF3. Like, I mean, in the middle of NF bond, all the three bond pairs are almost in the middle of NF bond. Or I would say it is more and more towards fluorine, no problem. Okay, but here, if you see, the bond pair will actually be more and more close to your nitrogen, right? So what do you think is happening? So since the electron cloud is moving like this, so what is happening here? Because of this, the distance between the bond pair, the bond pair of electron, the distance between the bond pair decreases. Right? The distance between the bond pair decreases. So what is going to happen? To avoid repulsion, what will they do? The bond pairs will try to move away from each other. Isn't it? The bond pair will try to move away from each other. Is it not? Right? So, guys, do you find any difficulty here? Again, I repeat. So here, in case of NF bond, I would say it's almost in the middle, or even say it is more towards fluorine, the bond pair, right? But here, if I go for NH bond, since I have high electronegativity difference, right, the bond pair will be more and more towards nitrogen, right? So because of that, what is happening? You see that the distance between the bond pairs are actually decreasing. So if the distance decreases, the repulsion increases, so the bonds will try to move away from each other, right? So in this case, definitely NH3 is having more bond angle than NF3. Okay, right? So guys, everybody got it? Is there anyone who didn't get this? Is it okay? Shall we move on? Or did you find it difficult? Guys?
Understood.
Okay, what about others? Everybody got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Cool. So now let me compare NF3 with NCl3. Now again, I'm getting more and more complex. It's not complex for people. It's very easy. Okay. So for NH3, we did like this. For NF3, we will not be able to do with respect to the electronic difference. And same goes with these two also. Like same goes with NH3 and NCl3 also. Again, there is not much electronegativity difference between nitrogen and fluorine, right? So we will not be able to speak like this. Okay. So now how will I be able to speak then? Right? Can you think of any reason? Okay, I will tell you the answer. At least can you come up with some reasons? I'm telling that NCl3 is having more bond angle than NF3. I want you to come up with a reason. Go for it. Think. I'm telling that NCl3 is having more bond angle than NF3. How do you account for it? Random guess, like Suma, whatever comes to your head. Nobody is able to come up with reasons. It might be wrong or correct, doesn't matter. It's all about participating, using your mind.
So lone pair repulsion, sir.
Lone pair, both of them have one lone pair. That is lone pair on nitrogen, if you're speaking. Yes, there are only one lone pair on the central atom. Any other reason can you come up with? Okay, I'll help you. Fine. So again, guys, it's
Huh?
yeah.
Okay, is it because F3 is more electronegative? than chlorine. Fluorine is more electronegative than chlorine, so the repulsion will be less.
Repulsion will be less. Repulsion
Between the fluorine atoms.
between the fluorine atoms will be less.
So they won't move away from each other and the bond angle will be less.
Okay. I can, like, I would say it is 10% correct, right? But it is not because of electronegativity. Okay. Like, let me go for it. Right. Okay. So NF3 and NCl3, both of them has one lone pair. No problem. Okay. Cool. Now, guys, it is not going to be based on the central atom. It is not going to be based on electronegativities. It is going to be based on the lone pairs on the side atoms, right? It is going to be based on the lone pair on the side atom. Like, obviously, I know fluorine, chlorine in this case is having lone pairs, isn't it? So obviously, I know fluorine on chlorine has both of them has 7 valence electrons, and out of that, only one involves in bonding, right? So obviously, each of the fluorine and each of the chlorine has 3 lone pairs. Same goes here. Right? Right? Now, we have to look at the repulsion between the lone pairs of the bonding atoms now. Lone pairs of the bonding atoms. Now, how do we compare this? Now, it's all going to be based on size, isn't it? Now, which is bigger in size, chlorine or fluorine?
Chlorine.
Definitely, when I go down the group, size increases, right? So, chlorine is bigger in size than your fluorine. So, because of what is going to happen? Because of that, I would say since the chlorine atom is very big, right? So obviously the lone pair on one chlorine atom and the lone pair on the next chlorine atom will be interacting more than in this case. Why? Because the chlorine atom is very small and as I said, is highly electronegative also. So I would say the lone pair will be very much constricted to the fluorine atom itself, right? But if I go to chlorine, since it is having relatively a bigger size, I would say the lone pair on this and the lone pair on this will interact more. That interaction means what? They'll have more repulsions than in this case, right? So I'm talking about the lone pair repulsion on the bonding atoms. Like it doesn't nothing to do with the central atom here, right? So obviously the lone pair repulsion will be higher. I mean, lone pair repulsion on bonding atoms will be higher in case of NCl3 than NF3 because Cl is chlorine is having more size, so the interaction will be higher. So definitely, what is going to happen because of this? Because of this, each of the NCl bond will try to move away from each other because of the higher size of chlorine, right? So obviously, that's why I say that NCl3 is having more bond angle than NF3. Everybody got this, guys?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Cool, right? So it's because of NCl, chlorine is bigger size and the lone pair on chlorine and the lone pair on other chlorine will suffer more repulsion, and because of that, they'll try to move far away from each other, right? So now say if I put even NBr3, now what will happen? Comparing NCl3 and NBr3, which do you think is going to have higher bond angle? NCl3 and NBr3, which will have higher bond angle? Same analogy, same concept. What is the answer? Are you telling something? See, I'm not able to hear. What is the answer? NCl3, NBr, just now we saw. What would have been the for NF3, NCl3? NCl3 was having higher bond angle. So definitely.
NBr3.
NBr3.
Exactly, because again, bromine is still more bigger, right? So the lone pair repulsion will be still higher in bromine. So I mean NBr3, so they will still try to move far away. So NBr3 will have more bond angle than NCl3. Okay, right? Cool. Now we'll take more examples. Okay, say, let me take, mm, okay, let me take NH3 with PH3. Same group, right? Central atom belongs to the same group. Okay, fine. I'll again give you the answer. Let me see if you're able to predict why this happens. I would say that NH3 is having a higher bond angle than PH3. How can you come up with it? How can you come up with a reason? Both of them are having one lone pair, 3 bonding atoms, sp3 hybridized. Everything is same, except that now the central atom is different. How will you come up with the reason for this? I'll give you a clue. Again, it's based on size.
Sir, nitrogen size is smaller than phosphorus, sir.
Okay.
So force of repulsion will be there, no, sir. Between
Yeah, okay, fine. So almost correct. So again, guys, it's same structure, everything is same. Right? Okay. So now it's again about lone pair, bond pair repulsions, right? So I know ammonia and nitrogen is very small, right? And I would say like, yeah, I'm going to have some interaction between this lone pair and this bond pair, no doubt about it. But if I look at this, phosphorus is bigger, right? So what will happen? The lone pair on this will be still more available for repulsion, like than in this case, right? The lone pair on this phosphorus will be still more available for repulsion. That means it is more dispersed, I would say, right? So this lone pair on phosphorus is more dispersed. So obviously the lone pair bond pair repulsion here is greater than here. So obviously, so what will happen now? So because of this, the bonds will come still more closer, right? This bond will still come still more closer, making NH3 to have higher bond angle. Okay, so yeah, guys, these are all the things which I have to know for your bond angles. Okay, fine. Now we'll do one problem. We'll do just one problem. I think you have to tell me the order. That's what you need to do. Okay. Okay, I think I have included everything. Fine, no problem. I have beryllium chloride. I have H2O. I have um, BCl3. And I have NH3. I have CH4. I have okay, fine. I have NF3. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 molecules, right? So I want you to arrange them in the order of bond angles. Go for it. I'll give you 2 minutes. Yes, I think you would have gotten it. Okay, so which do you think is going to have the highest of all bond angles?
BeCl2,
BCl2.
Exactly, right? What was the bond angle there?
180 degree.
180 degree.
Exactly, right? So here it is sp hybridized linear 180 degrees. So the first rank goes to beryllium chloride. Okay, after that,
Barium chloride, sir.
BCl3.
barium, it's boron
No,
trichloride.
boron
Ah,
trichloride. Sorry, sir.
Yeah, no problem, right? So here again, I know it's sp2 hybridized trigonal planar 120 degrees. So second rank goes to BCl3. Okay, next.
CH4.
Very good, very good, right? So I know CH4 is sp3 hybridized, no lone pair. See, you see blindly you can go for this, okay? Blindly you can go for this. First, if at all some kind of situation is given to you like this, check for molecules which doesn't have lone pair first. Definitely they will have higher bond angle. Again, if at all you see like 3 or 4 molecules like this are not having a lone pair, then go for the hybridization, go for the shapes and decide what will be the bond angle. Is that okay? Fine. So here it is obviously going to be 109 degrees 5 minutes. So the third rank goes to CH4. Okay, next.
NH3.
Very good, right? So again, NH3 is sp3 hybrid. sp3 hybrid is with one lone pair. So obviously we saw just now. So fourth rank goes to NH3. Next.
NF3, sir.
NF3.
Exactly. So fifth rank go. Just now we saw because of the bond pair more and more towards nitrogen, the bond pair repulsion increases and the bond shifts. Okay, and obviously the least of all bond angle goes to H2O, right? Because I have lone pair repulsion. Right? This is out of all these molecules, H2O is the only one which is going to have lone pair repulsion on the central atom. Okay, so guys, it will be very easy for you. Like if at all it is practiced. See, not only for this entire chapter, I mean, as to say, if you want to become really good at it, right? It's all about practicing more and more, right? If you're gonna do that, very easy. Like you're gonna become master of this. Okay, fine. So this is how you will be predicting the bond angles. Okay, right? Fine. Now, like instead of you can either very well go by logics, like how is it going to happen? But I can give you some tricks also, right? I can give you little shortcuts to decide which will have higher bond angle, which will have lesser bond angle, and all that. So we'll try to do that. Right. Okay. Say first thing what you have to look at is whether I have lone pair or not, right? Whether lone pairs, if present, lone pair on central atom, right? If I have lone pair on the central atom, more and more lone pairs, less and less would have been the bond angle. So I can easily say that it is going to be inversely related. The number of lone pairs on the central atom is going to be inversely related to the bond angle, because lone pair there, the bond constricts, bond angle reduces, right? Okay, that's the first point. Second point, assume that they have lone pairs, right? Now, if at all I have lone pairs, like say one lone pair on all of them, right? So now it is going to depend upon, I would say first, the electronegativity of the central atom. If I take it into the picture, I'm talking about the electronegativity of the central atom, say NH3, PH3, right? Both the central atom, both the bonding atoms are same, but nitrogen is more electronegative than phosphorus. In that case, what did you see? You saw that NH3 was having higher bond angle. Why? Because the lone pair on phosphorus is still more dispersed because of the size, right? Because of the size. Or I can put it like this: instead of talking about the electronegativity, I can talk about the size of the central atom. That will make more sense, isn't it? Okay. So if the size of the central atom is increasing, say phosphorus is having more size, so what happened there? The bond angle was still more reducing because the lone pair on phosphorus was still more dispersed than in the case of nitrogen. So again, here it is going to be inversely related to the bond angle. More and more size with the lone pair. See, this has to have with lone pairs. That's the condition, right? So it is again going to be inversely related to the bond angle. Okay, next. Third point, if I speak about size of the bonding atoms, or say side atoms. Now, size of the side atoms. Now, what will happen? I say NH3, NF3, NCl3. NCl3 was the one which was having maximum bond angle. Yeah, NCl3 was the one which was having maximum bond angle. Isn't it? Why? Because chlorine atom is big. So the lone pair on one chlorine, lone pair on another chlorine will have more interaction. So they will try to move far away from each other. So I can directly say that this is going to be directly proportional to the bond angle. Very simple 3 points. Or you can go by logic. And like what to say, do not use this in your school, right? Do not tell that, okay, size of central atom or the inverse related. Do not tell like that. Show whatever I have seen, whatever I'm showing, right? And then you tell it. Like this is just for your reference. Or if you go for any competitive exams. So at that time, it might help. Okay. So yeah, that is about bond angles. Okay, cool. Now we'll move on to next concept. Right. Fine. Okay, so now next concept is going to be a little interesting. Right? So we are going to speak about a physical phenomenon called dipole moment. Okay, so we'll see. We'll go from the bottom. We'll take it slowly. Okay, so what do you mean by dipole moment? For that, we need to understand what is a dipole first. Right now, when I say a dipole, right, when I say a dipole, right, a dipole is nothing but you can take the definition first. Dipole, we'll take the definition. It is equal and opposite charges. It is equal and opposite charges separated by a distance. Equal and opposite charges separated by a distance. Okay, dipole is nothing but it is a setup, right? The setup in which I have two equal and opposite charges separated by some distance. Okay, right? So as simple, I can just put it like this. I have plus q, I have minus q. Say this is the distance is d. The distance between them is d. So this entire arrangement is what is called as a dipole. Right? If I just take one plus charge and of exactly magnitude same but negative charge and keep them at a distance of some d, this entire setup is what is called as your dipole. Right? Okay. So when I say dipole moment is actually what to say? It's a measurable quantity. Right? We will be able to measure it. We'll be able to calculate it. Right? Just like you have velocity, all these things. Like that, I have dipole moment. It's very simple. Now, dipole moment is given by the letter mu. Right? How do you write mu? Put one this thing and then you write a u. That's it. That's what is mu. Right? So mu, that is my dipole moment, is very simple. It is equal to charge into the distance. That is one of the either of this q magnitude into the distance of separation is what is my dipole moment. Okay, right? Now we are not interested in calculating the dipole moment. Right? Now we are going to incorporate this in chemistry. Right? We are going to incorporate this in chemistry, and we are going to compare which molecule will have higher dipole moment, which molecule will have lower dipole moment. All these things we are going to see. Okay, fine. So this is just an introduction. Like if you don't understand, there's nothing to understand here. I just told you dipole means plus and minus q separated by a distance, and dipole moment is nothing but it's a formula which is equal to q into d, that is charge into distance. Anyways, like you will study more about this in your physics part. 12th physics, you'll be actually calculating and all these things we'll be doing. But for now, we are not interested in calculating, we are interested in comparing molecules for their dipole moments. Okay, fine. So guys, how are we to incorporate first this dipole? We'll come to dipole moment. first we have to understand how this even dipole comes into the picture, right? How do I have this dipole? That means what? I should have a plus q, I should have a minus q separated by a distance, isn't it? There should be some distance between some plus q and some minus q, right? How will you go about it? Can I say this is going to happen only if I have polar molecules? Is it not? Right? Say
Yes,
just
sir.
now is if I have HF molecule, like I know fluorine atom is more electronegative, so the electron cloud will be moving towards fluorine. So, but there, what happens there? I have a del negative developed on fluorine, and since electron cloud is moving away from hydrogen, so definitely I would have had a del positive on hydrogen. That's it, right? I got my dipole plus q minus q separated by a distance. Now the distance here is going to be my bond length, isn't it? This, say, whatever the bond length here, this bond length is what is going to be d here, right? So hope you're able to get what I'm trying to say. So first I have to incorporate this dipole in my molecule. It's very simple. Dipole will be created if I have polar molecules, isn't it? Dipole will be created if I have polar molecules. As simple as that, right? Since the electron cloud is moving towards one thing, there is a negative charge, partial negative charge, and since the electron cloud is moving away from one thing, I'm going to have a partial positive charge on the hydrogen atom. Very simple. So this will definitely have some dipole moment, right? This will definitely have some. Again, we are not interested in the values. Don't worry. Okay, fine. So let me compare HCl with HF with HCl. Right, HCl with HF. I want to compare. I want to see which is having more dipole moment. Right now, you don't have to worry about the formula, people. Right, you just don't have to worry about the formula. Okay. Cool. It's now, like, I would say the distance does not matter so much, right? Now you can ask me, sir, I have two quantities here. One is charge, the other one is distance. Which has to be given more priority, right? Definitely charge has to be given more priority, because say now if I talk about distance here, it is just going to be the bond angles, right? Say I would have said that the bond angle would have been say some 1 angstrom units. I'm just putting some random value. This is not the exact value. Say for HF the bond length was 1 angstrom units. Say here it would have been 1.02, 1.03 angstrom units. There is not going to be much difference. That to angstrom, 10 to the power minus 10 meters, right? So I would say in chemistry that is D. That is what is it? Your bond length does not make significant difference in your dipole moments. But what does make significant difference is my charge, Q, right? And that is solely going to depend upon how much electronegativity difference I have, right? This Q is definitely going to depend upon how much is the delta En. Delta En means what? Electronegativity difference between the bonding atoms. Okay, so here also there is going to be same thing. Say if I call it as del 1 positive and del 1 negative, say here it is del 2 negative and del 2 positive. Now tell me, which is going to be higher? Del 1 is higher or del 2 is higher?
Del 1, sir.
Definitely, right? Because I know there is a large electronegativity difference between H and F compared to H and Cl, because fluorine is more electronegative, right? Since fluorine is more electronegative, the electronegativity difference in HF is greater than HCl. So obviously the charge separation is also going to be higher. So when I compare the dipole moment, HF is going to have a higher dipole. I would say, even in simpler words, I would say HF is more polar than your HCl, and thereby it is having more dipole moment than your HCl. Okay, right? Cool. So, okay, now again, one more thing what you have to understand is, people, this dipole moment is actually a vector quantity. What is a vector?
It has magnitude and direction.
Cool, right? So it is basically a vector quantity. So you're represented with an arrow on the top, right? That means, yeah, this is about the magnitude, I understand, right? So how do I go about the direction? So please understand, for dipole moment, the direction is always pointed towards more electronegative element. Right? So the dipole moment is going to be directed. The direction is going to be that it is going to start from the less electronegative element. It is going to point towards your more electronegative element. So in both these cases, the dipole moment direction is like this, from H to F, because again, it's all about pointing towards more electronegative element. Right? In this case, it is F. In this case, it is Cl. So it is going to point towards that. Okay. And not only it's about more electronegative element, sometimes you might even have lone pairs present, right? You might have lone pairs present. So it's either it is pointing towards more electronegative element, or it can even point towards lone pairs, or it can also point towards lone pair. Okay, fine. Don't worry. We'll just take ample number of examples and then we'll move on. Right. So hope you understood this. Between HF and HCl, HF is more polar. That means it is having more charge separation and thereby having more dipole moment. Okay. Right. So we'll move on. We'll take more and more examples. Fine. This part. Okay. So let me take it like this. I have, fine. Now let me ask you a question. Can I have dipole moment, the overall dipole moment can be 0? Can it be 0? Definitely, if I have a non-polar molecule, definitely it is 0. Say for H2, there is no charge separation at all. Their charge is 0, so definitely it's 0. What I'm asking is, you have a polar bond to the molecule, right? Say one or two more bonds is actually polar in the molecule, but still there can be cases where I can have 0 dipole moment, right? How? It's all about the vectors here, right? Say if I have a particle like this, right? So if I pull this particle from this side by 5 Newton, and I pull that molecule, that particle from that side by 5 Newton, what is the net force acting on this molecule?
0.
Right? So same thing can happen in case of dipole moments also. And I can give you a beautiful example like this. Say if I have beryllium chloride, BeCl2, right? So in BeCl2, obviously I'm going to have a linear shape and I'm going to have a bond angle of 180 degrees. Say if I look beryllium chloride, right? Now what I exactly told you, that's what is happening here. I know chlorine is more electronegative, no doubt about it. The bond is polar, del negative, del negative and del positive, all these are there. There's no doubt, right? But remember people, dipole moment, say I would say there is something called as individual dipole moment for a bond, and there is overall dipole moment for the entire molecule. So you have to know the difference. Again, I repeat, there is going to be dipole moment for a bond, for a particular bond in a molecule, and I'm going to have overall dipole moment of the whole molecule as such. This might or might not be same, right? So in this case, for example, in this case, there is only one bond, right? So the bond dipole, that is the dipole moment of this bond and the dipole moment of this whole molecule are same because I have only one bond. But in this case, there are 2 bonds. There will be 2 bond dipoles, right? So definitely you have to look into the direction and decide whether it's going to have any resultant dipole moment or not, right? So it's wonderfully is going to work. Obviously, I told you it is going to, the dipole moment for individual bonds are going to point towards more electronegative element. So can I say for this bond, it is pointing towards this side, right? And for this bond, it is pointing towards this side. Say the dipole moment value was X here. The same X would have been this side. So the net dipole moment is equal to 0. So even though both the bonds are polar, but since my dipole moment is going to be a vector quantity, this side dipole moment is cancelled by this side moment. So the overall dipole moment is 0. Right? Okay, fine. Let me take more examples like this. Right? And one more thing, people. Right? Sometimes they will ask a question like this. Give me the reason why BeCl2 is non-polar, they will say. Okay, what do you mean by non-polar? It's like it's not individual BCl bonds, they are talking about the overall molecule as such, right? So overall molecule, whenever you have dipole moment to be 0, that kind of molecules are actually non-polar molecules, right? Whenever you find the overall dipole moment, not the individual dipole moments, right? Whenever you see the overall dipole moment in a molecule is 0, right? So definitely it is going to be called as a non-polar molecule. And whenever there is a net dipole moment, say mu not equal to 0, at that time I'll be calling it as polar molecules. Okay, right? So now let me take another example. I have BF3. Okay, I have BF3, right? So again, I have 3 individual bonds which are polar. That means I'm going to have some charge separation because I know boron and fluorine are going to have some electronegativity difference. Delta N is there, delta En is there, right? So definitely I'm going to have del negative, del negative, del negative, del positive on boron and fluorine respectively. No problem, right? Okay, and I know the bond angles, they're like symmetric, they're 120 degrees apart, right? So anyways, no problem. Now I would say for this, the dipole moment is pointing towards the more electronegative element, that is fluorine. For this bond, it is pointing towards like this, and for this bond, it is pointing upwards, isn't it? Right? Now, hope you remember how to get the resultant. You would have studied in your vectors, first chapter of physics. Did you study?
Yes, sir.
Everybody studied, right? So now, what do you see for this 2? I can take any 2 of them, doesn't matter. So if I take this 2, that is say fluorine number 1 and fluorine number 2, if I take, can I say that the resultant is going to be exactly like this?
Yes, sir.
Right? The resultant is going to be exactly like this, and this is going to get cancelling out. So obviously, in this case also, mu is equal to 0. Or you can just see that it is symmetric. Whenever you see a symmetrical molecule, blindly put 0. Whenever you see a symmetric molecule, you can directly put mu to be equal to 0. Okay, so in this case, all the bond dipoles are cancelling each other. The overall dipole moment is 0. Okay, fine. So even if I take, for example, CH4, so I know CH4 is going to be tetrahedral. Right, so this is my shape, tetrahedral. Right. So again, symmetrical molecule, there is no lone pair, blindly put it, mu is equal to 0. Right? Okay, fine. Now these are all, so the thing is, whenever you see a symmetrical molecule, and obviously lone pair is there or lone pair is not there, but if you see a symmetrical molecule, right, so you're definitely going to have 0 dipole moment there. Okay, fine. Now let me take a case where I have non-zero dipole moments, and we'll see how are we going to go about it. Okay. Cool. Let me take a molecule like this. Okay. Say I have beryllium Be, Cl, and Br, right? And I have beryllium, Cl, and F. Okay. Now it's not BeCl2, right? The halogens present here are different on both these cases. Now one is chlorine bromine, another is chlorine fluorine. Okay. Now I want to compare which is going to have more dipole moment. It's going to have more dipole moment. Now again, it's all about having more electronegativity difference here. So definitely, guys, here in this case, can I tell I have a non-zero dipole moment? Right? So obviously the dipole moment in this case is pointing towards this side and dipole moment is pointing towards this side, but these are not equal. Because I have chlorine here, I have fluorine here. Say now this value is some X and this value is some Y. These are not equal, right? And obviously there is going to be a resultant, right? That resultant will point towards which side? In this case, there is going to be a resultant for this, and this resultant direction is pointing towards which side? Did you understand my question?
Sir, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, no problem. So basically, I'm telling I have DeCl polar bond. Say it is going to have a dipole moment towards chlorine. Okay. Now for this side, I have fluorine beryllium. So definitely there is going to be some electronegative difference. So this bond is also polar, and this bond is also going to have some dipole moment. So this side one. I'm asking you to which. So definitely there is going to be some net dipole moment. It is not zero, isn't it? So obviously, I would say that the net dipole moment will be the subtraction of x and y. That is also understood. I'm asking to which direction the net dipole moment is pointing.
Cl side, sir.
Fluorine side, sir.
Fluorine
It is
side.
going to be fluorine's side. Again, it's so now look at this. I have y value, I have x value. Now, which do you think is greater?
Why, sir?
Definitely, right? So it's all about delta. So remember, delta En is directly proportional to the dipole moment. Blindly you put, because more and more charge separation is going to happen there, and more charge, more and more Q, and more dipole moment, right? So definitely in this case, Y is greater than X because it's fluorine more electronegative, fluorine less electronegative. So the overall dipole moment, mu, is basically going to be Y minus X. That I understand. But what is the direction? The overall dipole moment is in this direction towards fluorine. Understood? Everybody understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now going to this, right? Now again, I have towards chlorine, this side, towards bromine, this side. Say now I have put for chlorine it is X, let me put X itself, like because I want to compare, which is going to have a higher dipole moment. Okay, so now in this case, let me for beryllium and bromine, let me put Z value, some value of Z. Okay, fine. Now, obviously, again, it's non-zero. The value is not zero because these are not equally electronegative elements. Right. Fine. Now tell me, X is greater or Z is greater?
X, sir.
Definitely, because chlorine is more electronegative than bromine. So in this case, definitely X is greater than Z, right? So what is the direction of the dipole moment? Overall dipole moment. The overall dipole moment is going to point towards chlorine. Right? This is the overall resultant dipole moment. Right? Now the question is, okay, now mu, I'll be able to tell it as X minus Z. Right? Will I be able to compare? They'll be able to compare. No, this is not a good example for comparison. Okay, fine. Anyways, we'll not be able to compare people. Why we'll not be able to compare is fluorine, chlorine. I have, say, fluorine is more electronegative. There will be some difference in electronegativity between fluorine and chlorine. Okay, and if I look at chlorine and bromine, again, fluorine is more electronegative. Again, there will be some electronegative difference, but it's like between chlorine, fluorine and chlorine, bromine, the difference is not going to be much. Basically, what I'm telling is electronegativity of fluorine minus electronegativity of chlorine will be almost equal to electronegativity of fluorine minus electronegativity of chlorine minus electronegativity of bromine. Hope you're able to get what I'm saying. This is not a good example for comparison. We'll not be able to compare it like this. But still, you hope you understand what will be the net direction of dipole moment. That at least we can take from this, isn't it? So the net direction will be towards more electronegative element, whichever is there. Will be towards more electronegative element. Anyways, so what I'm telling you is the difference in electronegativity between fluorine and chlorine is almost equal to the difference electronegativity between chlorine and bromine. So we'll not be able to compare which is going to have higher. Exactly. Right? Okay, fine. So that's about these two examples. Okay. Now let me take a better example where you actually can help people to compare. Okay. Actually, fine. Good. I have BE, F, and BR, and say BE, F, and CL. This is a good comparison. Okay. Now you tell me which is going to have a higher dipole moment. Okay, let me mark it as 1 and 2, which is going to have a higher dipole moment. Okay, fine. So in this case, it is, yes, Kana, tell me.
One will have more, sir.
Yeah, correct. One will have more. Correct. Okay. So in this case, for this bond, it is going to be moved towards more electronegative element, and for this, it is towards more electronegative element. Again, these are not equal, so there is net dipole moment, and the overall dipole moment is going to be towards the more electronegative element. So it is going to be like this. And again, in this case, it is pointing towards this side, pointing towards this side. Again, not equal. Overall dipole moment is pointing like this, right? Okay. Now the question comes: which is going to have higher net dipole moment, right? So now it's all about what is the electronegativity difference between the two electronegative elements itself. Say here I have chlorine, bromine. Here chlorine, fluorine, and I have fluorine and bromine. Fluorine and bromine. So can I say in this case, say if at all, I'll just put some random values. Say if this is 1 and this is 2, right? And obviously for BF, again, BF bond, this will be, it should be a higher value, right? So let me put 3 and this is 2, right? And again, this is some 3, right? And this would have been still lesser. If BeCl bond is 2, definitely for BeBr bond, it should have been lesser, isn't it? Say this would have been 1. Are you able to understand? So what is the net dipole moment now? Net dipole moment will be 3 minus 2, which will be 1. And for the net dipole moment here, 3 minus 1 here will be 2. So definitely, first one is having more dipole moment than the second one. Again, I repeat. Okay. So here I have this pointing towards this side, pointing towards this side. Overall dipole moment towards fluorine. Same goes here. Right. Now we are going to compare the dipole moments. So it's very simple now. Say for BeF bond, that is the highest dipole moment in all of these. Say I put some value of 3, random value I'm putting 3, right? For BeCl, okay, little lesser because fluorine is little less electronegative than fluorine, so 2. Okay, so here again I have BeF bond, so same 3, whatever I'm putting it here, right? And for BeBr, it is going to be still lesser value than BeCl, right? So I'm putting a value of 1, so 3 minus 2 would have been the resultant, that is 1, and 3 minus 1 is 2, that would have been the resultant. So the overall dipole moment for molecule 1 is greater than that of molecule 2. Everybody understood? Is there any problem? Right? Okay, so tomorrow I think we'll come up with examples where I have lone pairs also, and then we'll see that. And then I think that's about, now it's, okay, then we'll go for your molecular orbital theory, right? And after that, I have to talk about the secondary bonds. Hope you know, like when I started this chapter, I told you that there will be 2 types of bonds, primary and secondary. So we are talking still about primary bonds. I have to look at the secondary bond, that is van der Waals force, dipole, hydrogen bonding. All these are there, right? So all these are very important. All these we'll see, right? So until then, we'll see tomorrow, not tomorrow, day after tomorrow. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.